Today, we're looking at Diamine Graphite. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now, Diamine Graphite is a gray ink. Make sure I have a range of experience with this ink. I do the writing samples. I put the ink into a different pen for day. I then put it into a cross Bailey with a medium nib to take my notes for this video. Before we get to the writing samples though, let's look at the sciencey bits. Up first is the chromatography, and I agree with Vita that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately put it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. We see that this gray is made with a kind of green. A very light green that pushes up, and then we get the gray all the way across the top. The one on the right I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. Now that green really sticks at the bottom. There's a distinctive line that after 10 minutes, it's really seeping in there. Some of that light green pushes up, and then we start to get that gray back all the way at the top where it gets much darker. Makes me feel like there may be some resistance here. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it might be to clean from your pens. And I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, this ink does not like to be reactivated at all. Don't do it. You're going to lose whatever it was, and if it was important, it's gone forever. Water reactivated and lifted most everything off the page, leaving behind only this kind of light green with some gray, but it's still definitely there. Now, pen flush did less than water. It did much less than water. Pen flush seemed to only lift the darkest areas off the page and to smooth the ink. It really didn't do much. I'm flabbergasted. Bleach obliterated it, lifted it off the page, left some yellow staining behind. I don't know what to say. I'm shocked that the flush and water weren't all that were needed to get this completely off, considering this is a Diamine ink and they're not calling it permanent. Normally Diamine is incredibly well behaved, and this one, I'm a little afraid that I might have to use the tiniest bit of bleach to get that out. Now that's a 1/3 bleach solution, but still. Now for the inks I've tested, I've found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.5. Diamine Graphite has a viscosity of 1.25, making it an incredibly super wet ink, and I think that's part of the problem that happened in the resistance, that there was so much ink that only 30 seconds was not enough time to let the flush or the water completely remove it. I just only do 30 seconds to keep things standard. Now to find my average dry times, I use my writing samples done on Clairefontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper with the extra fine and medium nibs. For the inks I've tested, I've found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Diamine Graphite has an average dry time of 20 seconds. So normal. Now let's look at the writing sample. I picked this ink up in sample form. And to keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's look at some Clairefontaine. We get no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 gives no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen. It does offer a little bit of shading. In certain areas it does get just a little bit darker and gradually. So it's kind of nice up here. When we move down to the 1.1, we get no feather, no spread, no halo, sheen, or shade. It took 13 seconds to dry. The medium, no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade again. 20 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us no color variation. We weren't expecting it, so we didn't get it. The smear test says you could likely recover it. Tomoe River. No bleeding. Yes, we get ghosting. Not horrible. The 1.1 gives no feather, no spread, halo, sheen, or shade. The extra fine's a noticeably lighter tone, with no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade. It took 20 seconds to dry.
The medium was the same thing, no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade. It is a little darker tone than we got with the extra fine. 28 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us no color variation. We didn't expect it, we didn't get it. The smear test, you rode on Tomoe River. You don't get to recover your smears. Rhodia. Rhodia gives no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 gives no feather, spread, halo, sheen. We get no shading on the Rhodia with the 1.1. The extra fine, no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen. We do get hints toward shading in its darkest areas, in its heaviest areas. The K, where I frequently get some darker areas. The X in Fox, a little bit darker. The R in Over, a little bit darker. It took 15 seconds to dry. A little bit lighter and darker on the medium. Medium's a little bit nicer here. The medium has no feather, no spread, halo, sheen. It does offer some nice gradual shading. It looks like you shaded a drawing a little bit with the medium. The H in the starts lighter and gets darker into E. The Q starts dark and gets lighter. The K gets darker. The X gets darker. The R gets darker. The P and the S are darker, so nice. 21 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby of the extra fine and the medium do show us some color variation. We did get a little bit, not nearly as much with the extra fine, but it is there, and I think that with the right pen, you could get it and it could be nice. The scrubby says you could likely recover it. And I don't know why, but I tested the yellow Rhodia. It had no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 offered no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade. We see that all the tones are the same. It's like testing a black ink on the yellow paper. Sometimes it'll do something, not the black, but with the gray, the hope was it would do a little something. It didn't. The grays sometimes have some neat undertones. This one doesn't. This is a flat, straight gray all the way through. Sometimes these colors are made of other colors. Extra fine, no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen. The shading is much more on the yellow paper than it was on the white paper. A lot more shading in the writing, much more noticeable in the, much more noticeable through quick, much more noticeable where you get the light to dark to light to very dark to light again on jumps. Nice, much nicer on the yellow than it was on the yellow or on the white paper, which is a reason to look at it with different tone papers. 15 seconds to dry. The medium had no feather, spread, halo, sheen, but great shading throughout. Really beautiful shading. I'm glad I tested it on it, even though I don't know why when I initially just looked at it again. Looking at quick, very dark to much lighter to much darker on the U, darker on the I, lighter to C, and then it gets darker up into the K. Very nice. The brown starts dark and gets lighter. It's like the difference between using like a 2B and an 8, and well, an HB. The difference isn't huge. But for those that are used to seeing it in the pencil difference, it's there. Much more on the yellow than on the white. 21 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both the extra fine and the medium showed us way more color variation. And we got way more color variation. Super nice. The smear test says you could likely recover it, and I want to believe that. So original Crown Mill. Original Crown Mill, it's a laid paper. It had no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 had no feather, spread, halo, sheen, but it did give us shading. Nice shading. I think this is where it looks the most like pencil. I think this is the only paper where, to me, it really looks like pencil. The extra fine looks like pencil. Nice. So if you want to be able to confuse your fountain pen friends, this could be a good one for it. The extra fine, no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen. There's a moment of shade. There's one moment of shade. It's the K in quick, and that is it. So I really don't want to say there's shading, although it looks like it could happen. 8 seconds to dry. The medium had no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade. 14 seconds to dry. Again, this looked the most to me like pencil on the paper with the extra fine of any of the writing samples. So that was where it was nice. The medium took 14 seconds to dry. The scrubby showed us no color variation in either of these, so we don't really expect it in the writing. The smear test, you would likely be able to recover it. That would be your only proof on the extra fine that was ink and not pencil. So black and red. Black and red offered no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 had no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade. But look, I mean, it's just the difference. It looks like gray ink. Looks like pencil. It looks like a darker pencil. Yeah. Extra fine. No feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, and no shade. It took 10 seconds to dry. Medium had no feather, spread, halo, sheen. It did offer some shading. It offered some very gradual shading through, which is nice. Unexpected when looking at gray and writing in pencil. In graphite, 15 seconds to dry. The scrubby of the extra fine showed us no color variation. We didn't get any color variation. The medium showed us some. We did get some. And the smear test says you could likely recover it, and I'll believe that you could recover it. That is all that I have for the writing sample.
Instead of finding inks that look like Diamine's Graphite, I would prefer to find an ink that complements the color on the page. Now, because this particular gray was made up with some nice little greens in it, I decided to go with Robert Oster's Marine because it's kind of a tealy turquoise color. Before I give my opinion on this ink, I would ask, if you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. And if it's your first time here, I would invite you to subscribe. Now, what do I think of Diamine's Graphite? The thing with gray inks is I love when they look like pencil. I know that sounds really weird to go from a fountain pen to say I would like it to look. If it's going to be gray, I want it to look like pencil. Exactly. I maybe want to fool someone. This one does not. It doesn't in any way look like it could be pencil. And it's not an interesting gray for me to look at. It's like something's wrong with my black ink. I just didn't care for it. Now, grays are hard to find really good ones, and I know we're going to find some, but this one to me was not it. Thanks for watching.